The word toxic is toxic in itself. I do not like to use it very often. However, there are some people that we interact with throughout our day-to-day lives that there just isn't a better way to describe them. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a decision I made in my early 20s to remove toxic people from my life and how far it's taken me since I made that decision. It's actually taken me quite a while to make this video, considering I read this book right here back in March of 2021. It's called Taming Toxic People, and it's written by David Gillespie. To be completely honest, I didn't love the book all that much, but it did give me some perspective and made me think about how my life has changed over the past 10 years, specifically regarding the people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. And it reminded me of the conscious decision that I had made to slowly start to distance myself from the people who I had labeled toxic that were involved in my day-to-day life back then as well. Fast forwarding all the way to today, where I have a great social group of friends, which I really love, and I have a great relationship with my family as well. And generally speaking, they're all pretty good. Everyone has their bad days, including myself, but overall, I value the people that I have in my life today. And to kind of set it in stone, I choose to spend my time with these people, and they seem to do the same with me, meaning that we must enjoy each other's company, and we are also willing to put up with any baggage that come along with us. And this is where I want to draw a line, because anyone can have qualities about them which can be considered or recognized as a bad quality or a bad attribute. But the ones who really set themselves apart and get that overall toxic label are the ones who display certain attributes which I'm about to discuss, and more importantly, they display them often. So jumping into the more fun part of today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the more common characteristics that toxic people display. The first one's pretty simple, and I'm sure there are people in your own life which definitely fit this character. Number one on my list is someone who never is at fault. It's never their fault for the problems that they have, and even if they have problems in their own life, it's someone else's fault all of the time. Blame is set elsewhere, which feeds directly into number two on my list, which is they never apologize and they don't acknowledge when they are wrong, even when you present them with factual evidence. It basically turns into a pride thing, which makes them look stubborn and set in their ways. I used to argue with people who had this mentality all the time, but not anymore. Today, I ask them one simple question, and if they cannot give me an answer, I move on from that conversation. I walk away, I distance myself from it because I don't want to be involved with someone who isn't willing to have a discussion or allow their minds to be changed if something proves their idea or theory wrong. If you're someone who interacts with these types of people and you get involved in these types of arguments, but you find the outcome is always the same, try this the next time you are in a scenario with someone who has this mentality. Ask them directly, what type of proof or evidence would it take for them to change their mind or opinion on the matter? If they cannot give you an answer, or they refuse to accept the evidence that you're providing them with, move on from that conversation. It's just going to turn into an argument. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a solution. They're not looking for a discussion to take place. They're looking to fight with you. Moving on to number three on my list. Now, this one is very frustrating, and it used to happen a hell of a lot, and I used to put up with it. Not anymore though. When people get upset because you're upset with them. If I had a serious concern about something and I raised it to a friend or a person I was in a relationship with, and I would say something like, look, I'm really not happy with what's going on here. Can we discuss and talk about it? And they would go, I'm the victim. I am the victim. You're making me feel upset for you feeling upset. That's childish behavior. Period. That does not belong in a healthy relationship. In a healthy relationship, you 100% should be able to express how you feel about something and talk about it. No matter how significant or impactful or difficult that conversation is going to be, bottling up those emotions, it's something I've actually seen with people in my own life. I've seen people bottle up emotions. Like, let's say two people in a relationship and one person's bottling up these emotions. They're just every time this scenario happens, this person breaks down, plays victim, and nothing ever gets resolved. And this person's just like, okay, we'll talk about it later, I guess. And they never get to talk about it. And then eventually they get to breaking point. I've watched relationships end. People that have been married for a very long period of time. I'm talking like 30 plus years, watching this person just keep on bottling up that emotion because they never learned to hold a discussion with their partner, and the relationship just absolutely crumbling when they can no longer take it. And this happens because eventually they see that they're in a toxic environment and remove themselves from it. And the other person sits there all stunned like, I can't play victim here because they've actually left. What ends up happening is both people end up losing. Number 4 on my list is that toxic people lie. Don't do it. Lying is bad. You will get caught. There's a phrase which I've kind of lived by for a long time now, because I realized when I was a kid, I was a pretty bad liar. I used to just twist the truth a little bit, and I used to get called out a lot by my friends, and I learned the hard way. Sure, every now and then you tell a little white lie, you might exaggerate something and people call you out for it, and you learn from those mistakes. They're good friends. They're good people if they do that in your life. People who lie, people who exaggerate, it gets out of hand, you get caught. There is a phrase, like I said, that I have been following for a really long time, and it goes like this. People who lie will get caught eventually. Most people suck at hiding what they don't want other people to find out. And this extends to telling people how you feel. At some point during my 20s, I kind of stopped giving a shit and just started telling people how I feel if it was the right setting to do so. I made sure that I didn't purposefully try to embarrass people or anything like that, but I definitely just spoke my mind, and the people who could hack it, that's the way I'll put it, the people who could take on board what I had to say, have a discussion about it. They might have disagreed with what I had to say, but instead of exiling me as a person, we built a stronger and better relationship out of it. I'm not just talking about people I'm in relationships with or my family. I'm talking about some of my closest friends today. I can pretty much go to any of them with anything, even if it's confrontational, and have a discussion about it. They might not like it, but they seem to have stuck around for quite some time now. I'm, like I said, very, very happy with the group of friends I have. I'm very lucky to have them, but it's taken a lot of work with them. We have had some rough points where we have arguments and heated discussions. We have always pretty much told the truth in what our opinions are on specific matters, and we are still friends today. I think it's a really valuable thing that people don't seem to have in a lot of different relationships these days. They lie, they tell little white lies, they don't tell people how they really feel about stuff. And the outcome generally, like I said, is them bottling up their emotions and it ending badly in the long run. And lastly, number 5 on my list is that they tear you and the people they spend time with down. This one definitely hurts the most for me. It's definitely fun to have good banter and jokes with your mates, but this one can blow out of proportion quickly. And I have fallen exactly into this trap before, where I have very clearly crossed a line and visibly made people upset, not being able to gauge just that level of banter, the jokeness, or I've taken something way too seriously in the wrong setting. It is something that I am definitely conscious of, and I have apologized and tried to make amends in the past for those instances, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all okay. I'm trying to be more conscious of it moving forward with my life, because I don't want to be the type of person who does cross those lines and ruins relationships and friendships with people that I care about. The reason why I'm talking about it in this list is because a lot of people do this and aren't actually aware of it. It's a behavior that is either something that is rubbed off from someone else in your life, where people adopt that persona and then they just do that, and then they wonder why people don't want to spend time with them, or why they avoid them. It's something that I have noticed with people, even people I work with. I've noticed the way people act, the way people interact with others sometimes can be a lot, and it's something to definitely be aware of. Now, what I've just talked about were my personal top 5 characteristics that a toxic person might display based on my own experience and my own opinion. The book goes into a hell of a lot more depth and more discussion on the topic. So if you want to pick up a copy, feel free. Link is down in the description below. And while you're down there, if you could just quickly hit that like and subscribe button, I really appreciate the support, and it goes a long way for the channel. Okay, let's move on from the common character tropes of a toxic person and talk a bit more about what I've personally done to remove these types of people from my life, and what you might be able to do yourself if you find that you're kind of in a similar situation. I'm sure if you've made it this far that you've probably got a couple of names or ideas of people that might fit this mold in your mind based on what I've been talking about throughout this video. If you can relate, I think the key point to take from today's video is to treat scenarios where the person says, oops, did I do that? Followed up by, hey, how come you won't forgive me for being a dickhead again? I'm sorry. And they just expect it to be okay. The response generally is going to be, if you want people to be in your life, make sure they are treating you the same way you want to be treating them. I know it seems simple enough, and I know that you've probably heard it a million times before, but it really is something that people just kind of brush over and don't actually take action for when they feel upset or they are mad at someone, and it's not just them being frustrated with them once or twice. It's genuinely they are bad people in your life. It definitely goes both ways, but if you are someone who is kind, trustworthy, thoughtful, personable, and all of the things that make someone want to be around you, you should be hanging around with people who give that back to you. And there's mainly 2 actions to be taken. The first is to identify the people who aren't doing this, who aren't giving back to you what you're giving to them. That is a big step. Actually identifying those people and starting to call them out is a big one. You don't have to just distance yourself from them, but try and have that discussion initially and say, hey, look, I don't like how you're acting like this, blah, blah, blah. Conversation begins. And if they can't give you the response that you deserve to have the discussion about that topic, you're probably never going to change that person, especially if you raise it a couple of times, which I myself had done with some of my friends, where some learned from their mistakes, some actually took it on board to be a better person. And I myself fell into that category as well a lot of times with a lot of the people I still interact with on my day-to-day life. And the outcome, like I said, is I have stronger relationships with those people. Whereas the other type of scenario where they don't take that on board, those relationships have fizzled out and I could not care less what they're doing with their lives. The other action that you need to take is to be assertive enough to not enable their behavior. If someone is playing victim, don't put up with that shit. Move on from that scenario by telling them, I'm not going to put up with this. This is unacceptable. We're going to have a discussion about this. And if you can't talk to me about it, I don't want to be around you. Literally telling them how you feel. And if they can't acknowledge it, you're just going to go in circles forever until it gets to breaking point. Nobody likes to label themselves as a toxic person. It's a pretty harsh label to give someone, and generally, most of the time, they're not necessarily toxic. The question that you need to ask in your scenarios where you're interacting with people who might display these traits is to ask if you're okay with the types of traits that they're displaying. Are they bad, or are they genuinely just, they're having a bad day here and there? And then you really need to question if it's a person that you want to continue spending time with and hanging around, because are they just really bad all the time and it's just playing on your mind? It gives you the best way to word it for me personally is, are they the type of person to drain you mentally? Because if they are, you should probably be questioning like the interaction you're having with them, and if they are someone you definitely want to surround yourself around. And something that might be a bit scary is that if any of the points I've made are relatable to your own behaviors, you might want to take a step back and question if you fit into this mold of being a toxic person. I'm not pointing fingers or placing labels, it's a discussion, and it's something that often doesn't get talked about. It gets talked about in a light where you're the bad person, but if you're willing to acknowledge and talk about it and work on yourself, the outcome's going to be beneficial in the long run, because you're the person that's going to become someone who others want to be around. Simply put, being thoughtful, considerate, and generous are great attributes to have, and having them in your arsenal will take you far in life. To wrap today's video up, definitely let me know down in the comments below if there are any common traits of a toxic person that you think should have made my list. I definitely am sure I missed some really good ones. So definitely please leave me a comment down below. I'd love to read it and I'll do my best to reply. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit different to money and the finance topics that I talk about, but there are some personal development topics which I think are really important to talk about. And I think there is value in talking about them. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button down below. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.